Thank you so much, Justin. Big thank you to Justin McHugh, who is showing us around the gallery right now. I want to thank I want to thank everybody so much for joining tonight for Iana Quesnell's Artist Talk. I want to also start off thanking Justin as well as Victor Sanchez, who is behind the scenes making sure that you can all see our wonderful programming, making sure that you know about it, that it all runs smoothly. So big thank you to Justin, to Victor, as well as the rest of our team who have been tirelessly working to get all of this amazing programming to you, the innovation, the dedication. It's been absolutely inspiring to be part of. And I'm so excited about our team and the work that they've been doing. So I want to give them a big, big shout out because they're absolutely amazing. And I always like to, brag about how awesome they are. And it's been a while since we've been virtually with you. So a big thank you to our team. I also want to give a big thank you to our board and our board members who have been tirelessly supporting us through this time and before. And it's really with their help that Lux can be what it is. So thank you so much, as well as our awesome liaisons whose enthusiasm and dedication to what Lux has been doing for years and continues to do really keep us able to keep doing these things. So I am so excited, as always. So now, without further ado, let me introduce Iana Quesnell. So this season is all about migration, and a big part of understanding what it means to migrate or to think about migration is to think about what it means to occupy a space. How do we move around a space? How does that space influence what we do, how we act? And what kind of dictates that is the systems that drive our society. So it's this movement and these systems that Iana investigates in her incredible drawings. I hope that everybody at some point will get a chance to see these works because the detail, the craftsmanship is absolutely amazing. So Iana is based in San Diego and currently teaches at Miracosta College. She has a BFA from Tampa University and an MFA from UC San Diego. She has exhibited at the Museum of Contemporary Art San Diego, the San Diego Museum of Art, Secut in Tijuana, Beyond the Border Gallery in San Diego, California Center for the Arts, Oceanside Museum of Art, the San Diego History Museum, and Aqua Art in Miami. Iana is also the recipient of the San Diego Art Prize, as well as MCSD's Circa Award. So before I give the mic over to Iana, one of the big parts of opening receptions is getting the opportunity to meet the artists, to talk with them, to meet the community, to talk with the community. And now that we can do that, we've been trying to figure out a way to still get that opportunity with the artists. So we've come up with quick fire questions that are probably a little bit silly, but still fun to ask Iana. So we get to know her a little bit better. So Iana, are you ready for these quick fire questions?
Let's do it.
Great. Okay, so this one is easy. What is a typical day for you? Maybe.
Well, it depends on if I'm house sitting. If I'm house sitting, I wake up around 8 and then I feed all the animals and then I start working on my my drawings or prep for my talks or whatever, I work all day on my classes or my work or my whatever has to do with my art practice. If I'm in the car, I wake up earlier, like at 5, and I get up and I get to the next place and then decide what I'm going to do for the day and then set out. And I try to maintain. I'm very aware of how little time I have, left. So I take every day and try not to waste it, basically.
I was going to say, I don't want to jinx it, but I hope that it's more than that little time that you're saying. I hope that there's a lot of time.
Oh, I do too, but I'm 51, so half my life is gone. So I'm not going to take the rest.
I love that. I think everybody should live like that always. So what is the most common obstacle you come across in your work?
In my work? Time, money, space.
What is your go-to reread book? So not your favorite book, but your go-to reread.
Reread. I don't reread anything.
So you can commit like all the theories you read, all of that is committed to your memory.
No, I'll read through something. If it's really interesting, I'll read through it slowly and to maybe take notes. But if it's complex reading, I will have such a long time getting through it that I'm not going to want to go through that again.
Yeah.
I mean, I might read something that's similar to kind of cross-reference the information.
Yeah, it's a process.
Right.
Yeah. What is on the menu for your dinner party?
My dinner party.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a place to have a dinner party.
That makes it easier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What artist would you like to spend a day with, dead or alive?
Mark Lombardi. He's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Mark Lombardi.
And what new language would you like to learn?
I still would like to learn Spanish. Hablo español, pero poquito.
I was gonna say you probably speak more than.
It's okay. I mean, I speak more than I speak a fair amount, but not enough to have an interesting conversation.
Yeah. What would you rather explore, space or the ocean?
The ocean, so I can get back to the surface faster.
So you're an earthling.
No, outer space is tricky.
Yeah, it is. So what is your favorite drink?
Well, I like water a lot, and if I'm drinking alcohol, it's an IPA.
I won't ask you what your favorite is.
Yeah, I know my favorite.
So my last question, which might be the trickiest one. If you started a band, what would you call it?
I am so not musically inclined.
It's an air band.
You are what you eat.
Sorry, one more time?
You are what you eat.
Oh, I like it. Great. Well, thank you so much, Iana, for indulging us with these silly questions. I would like to hand it over to you, but if anybody has questions for Iana, please put them in the Q&A or in the chat, and at the end of her talk, we'll get to those as well. So let's sit back, relax, and enjoy this talk.
Okay, it's my turn. So I will, hi guys, thank you all for showing up. I see I have some friends and family. Thank you so much for showing up. I am gonna just dive right in because I have 45 minutes and I have a lot to show. So I'm gonna go ahead and screen share my desktop. If I can see, there we go, screen desktop. And I'm just gonna get started with my core drawing. So you guys saw some of the video, but the video wasn't very good. So I'm gonna kind of bring up a few of those drawings that you saw on the show and see if we can get a better idea of what they look like. So this first one is Familial Landscapes. Can you guys see that all right? Yusha, can you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's pretty intricate. This drawing is about the migration, the history of the migration path of the female line in my family. So it starts with my great grandmother and it ends with me in my immediate family because I didn't have children. So I did this piece to represent my great grandmother. She was born in Sicily near Mount Etna, and she and my great grandfather came over in this ship La Patria. And then they landed in St. Louis, and this is my grandma and grandpa, and they have my mother and her siblings in St. Louis, and this is my mom. I'll show you a detail of that in a moment. This is my mom's favorite memory. So when I was drawing this, I asked her what her favorite memory was, and so I put that in there. And then she had me in Florida, and then at the time I was doing this drawing, I lived in Tijuana. So this little plate here is a picture of me with the burro in Tijuana. And my mom, I had her come out for the show that this drawing was done for. And I made her go out with me and take pictures with the burro. So I drew us in there before I went to the exhibition. Okay, so that's the large piece. I'm going to show you a detail so you can see a little bit more of what the detail looks like. So it's pretty detailed. This drawing took about 4 months, 12 to 16 hours a day to draw. I had a deadline, so I just, you know, I'll draw like a 6 by 6 inch area and time myself. And then I know based upon that, how many hours in a day I need to work over the course of several months to get something to meet a deadline. So this is a detail of my mom's favorite memory when she and my dad were married, and the 4 of us were still babies before we could mouth off and became teenagers. Okay, so that's the one drawing. And then another drawing that's in the show, Sublet. Okay, so this drawing is in the show. It's in, I think 2006, I was offered a sublet in Tijuana, and that's the first time I went to Tijuana, and this is what the room looked like. And this is the sofa in the room. And when you sit on that sofa and look out the window over here on the left, you have this view of the other drawing that was in the show. Let me see, I don't see it here. Excuse me for a minute. I can't open these all at once because they're too high resolution. Well, I don't have it. I don't have that piece in here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is the other piece that was in the show. So when you sit on the sofa and you look out the window, this is the scenery that you see. Okay, so I stayed in the sublet for 3 months, and I had a show at the end of the sublet at a solo show at Volts Alta. So again, I had to just work like 16 hours a day for 3 months to get this drawing done so that I could meet my deadline. And the drawing is 10 feet long. So if you guys were here before I started talking, there was some video, and I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit of the detail. So I'm just going to show you these core drawings first so you can see the level of detail that's in them before I get to the actual slideshow. Okay, so, and then at the end of this, if anyone wants to see any drawings, again, just ask. Okay, I'm going to turn that off. And then, so all of the drawings are, let me see, this one is also in the show. So just so you get an idea of what it looks like without the blurry. Okay, so it's pretty intricate. So all of these drawings have a story to them, and I will get to the story in a moment. Right now, I just want you to see what the surface of the paper looks like. Okay, and then I have multiple drawings, so I'm not going to show all of those. I'm going to dive right into the talk. Okay, basically, you are what you eat and where you go. So what I believe is everything that you, every experience that you put yourself through informs your identity. And so between 2000 and 2004, when I first got to San Diego, I worked 3 jobs, 7 days a week, any combination of these 3 jobs. And then I also maintained an art practice, and the kind of work I was doing while I was doing all those jobs was this simple on sketch paper with pen and ink, and, you know, just stuff that was small that I can carry around with me, because I squeezed in every free moment. I squeezed in some sort of a drawing practice. I also house sat I'm still house sitting. I'm house sitting right now. This is not my house. Okay, so with that work, I got rejected 3 years in a row by the UCSD grad program. And when you're working 3 jobs and trying to, there's no time left in the day. And so the very little bit of time that there might be, or maybe staying up 2 or 3 nights a week to keep an art practice so that you can apply to a program like UCSD is just, it's grueling, you know? So I did that for years. And after the 3rd rejection, I sort of gave up and just stopped trying, and decided to, instead of spending all my spare energy trying to make art, I just wanted to just live and be present in life. So I started practicing yoga. The yoga, when I first started practicing yoga, the people at the studio wouldn't give me a cheat sheet based upon some liability concerns. So I started, every time I practiced yoga, I would go out to my car and draw what I thought my postures looked like. And so this set of postures took me 3 months to draw. And each posture is associated with a breath. So at the same time, one of my jobs, I was working on the register at Trader Joe's. And so basically one day I was complaining internally and thinking, what am I doing here? What am I doing with my life? And then it just suddenly hit me, what is the difference between practicing Ashtanga for 2 hours every morning and being on this register for 2 hours, right? So that question just, it slapped me in the face, because there really isn't a difference. I wake up when I was practicing yoga at 5 in the morning, and I would go do breathing exercises for an hour prior to a 2-hour grueling Ashtanga practice. I mean, that is miserable if you think about it. I don't do it now, but for some reason at the time, I really enjoyed it, and I practiced 5 days a week. But when I'd go to work, something that's so easy as just standing there, it was just miserable. And so I just asked myself that question, and then immediately I understood that my perception was my biggest obstacle. And I also in that moment saw a path to graduate school. So I did that same thing. I took the idea of coordinating my postures with breath the way you do in yoga. And I started thinking about coordinating my postures with all the processes on the register at Trader Joe's. And I came up with this body of work. Now, this body of work took a year to create the animation. And then at the same time, I realized when I was trying to do the postures that I also needed to understand the measurements in the geographic space, because I needed to know how many steps I take, how far I bend, and all of that. So I'm just going to go through this first body of work. So I started mapping not only my postures, and the space inside the store, right at the register, but beyond the walls of the register. And at the time, I was living in my car. So I was occupying the city instead of a home. I was spread out, throughout the city. So I'd have my, LA Fitness was my bathroom, and, Denny's was my dining room, and Barnes and Noble was my living room. And, there's East Street Cafe. So these are the primary places that I hung out. And then I created a systems analysis out of that, and then started breaking those down into, so this was the first kind of formal analysis of the way I occupied Encinitas. And from there, I started mapping my space. So this is just a process of mapping, figuring out where I occupy, what spaces I occupy, and then acquiring all the information I could about each one of those spaces, and recording and documenting the things that I do in those spaces. And then, so I started just niggling apart every second of every day, looking at my, my movements on a very microscopic scale. And I discovered in the process of doing that, there's this internal dialogue, and one of the biggest, most profound things that occurred to me is that my movements are scripted by so many things outside of myself, right? And I understood in that moment the primary argument between free will and conditioning, right? So I realized all these years that I'm actually being conditioned, and I understood what conditioning means. And so then I started getting curious about if I could become more aware of the things that are conditioning me. Could I alter the direction of my path? Could I alter that conditioning? Could I turn the dial more towards free will? So I just started digging apart everything about my lifestyle. That's the truck I lived in. And then I parked, that upper parcel map is where I parked. And so I would, just every single tiny detail that I can think of to analyze, I was analyzing about my lifestyle. And so that work got me into graduate school. Okay, so that's the end of that slideshow. I'm going to open up. So once I was in grad school, I started getting shows within 5 months. I started, quite a few of us were in these group shows. And so the first show I was in was a 3-part series that started in Tijuana at Louis Velasquez, went to Sundown Salon in Los Angeles, and then traveled to Queen's Nails Annex in San Francisco. And the work, this is the work I did for that. So this is the work that's currently in the Lux show. And the bottom panel, I didn't participate in the Louis Velasquez part of this exhibition for some reason. But in the bottom panel is the Sundown Salon. So I participated in that. And then I would take the train to LA, go to the facility, map it out, come back and do the drawing. And then I actually did part of the drawing in the, during the duration of the show. And then from that show, so here's some details of that drawing. So in that show, I was invited, I did the bottom panel in that show. And then I was invited to show at Queen's Nails Annex in San Francisco. So I created the middle panel and then traveled to San Francisco to map out the space that my drawing would be showing in, and then came back and drew the drawing. So this is me drawing at the exhibition. So quite a few exhibitions are performance. So there, several exhibitions I've been in have been 1 or 2 days, and that's it. And during those 2 days, you're performing your work, and then after that, it's done. So this is the next show I was in, which is Voz Alta. And I was living in Tijuana. This is the work that's in the Lux show currently. But I did this work back in 2006 when I was first living in Tijuana at the sublet. So that's the room, and that's the couch, and then the view across from the couch. And then, so I did the drawing of the view across from the couch, and then a life size, the couch was also 10 feet long. So that's a life size drawing of the sofa. Here's some detail shots. So this is not a very good image because I photographed the drawing, but I didn't scan it and stitch it the way I normally do with my drawings. And then here's the other drawing that's in the current show. And this drawing later, like 10 years later, was involved with a open walls project and was printed on a billboard. So it's kind of a nice sunset shot. And then it's shown in multiple places. So that's why I have you, I'm showing it in multiple places. This is the next show I was in. And for this show, I was, by then my reputation for drawing living spaces had become known. And so I'd get invited to do things like stay in this hotel, the Omni Hotel, for free for 5 days to map out my temporary living space, and then do a drawing of the temporary living space. So that's the room I stayed in, the room, the details of the room. I got to have room service. I got to go to the buffet. And then I did a drawing of, I mapped the hotel for 5 days. So I'm in this fancy hotel, like on my hands and knees, mapping, drawing, and, just kind of occupying the space in this awkward way. And there's the drawing. And I did that drawing, and I think I had 10 days to do the drawing. So it's not rendered very complete. And then here's the gallery that it showed in was across the street from the Omni. So there's some images of the gallery that it showed in. And then in that show, I also had, so there's proof. Let's go back. There's proof that I stayed in it for free. There's zero balance on my receipt. These were the other drawings that were in the show. This was actually a living space that I occupied when I was in the military. I was on tour for 6 months in Bosnia. And so I'm also showing you other scripts that dictate my movements. So it's not just the geographic scripts. There's the orders that we got in the military telling us where we're going to go next. And then, the booklet of how you're supposed to behave when you're in that space. And here's some images of what my base looked like when I was living there. And then, I was tickled. I was just so tickled the first time I saw this haystack. Let me back up a little bit. That's the haystack. So my tent was, you can see my tent in the middle panel, and the view outside of the opening of my tent was a farm with this haystack. And when I saw that haystack, of course I thought Monet. And then, you know, so that's why I'm putting these images in there. And I was just so tickled the first time I saw a haystack that reminded me of Monet. It was like the first real thing that I've seen that like equated to something that I had studied. And my job was to be able to dismantle and build that satellite dish, and then service it and operate it. That's the inside of the van. So what I'm putting all of this information in here for is because the drawings are just, they're so little of the work, right? The drawing is really just the surface of the work. The work really is the life, right? The lifestyle is the work. And so I really want to convey that there's so much going on in the background besides just drawing. So the next show I was in, all of that stuff that I just showed you guys started, you know, I started building a reputation in San Diego. And then I was invited to do my first solo show at the Museum of Contemporary Art in La Jolla. And this is the show brochure. So I got a purchase award. So they purchased one of my drawings, and I got to have a solo show that was up for 3 months. And the work I did for this show started off as a sketch like this. So this was my plan. When the curator sat me down and said, we want you to have, we want to give you a solo show and a purchase award, and we want to have the show in 3 months. Well, you know, like I was flattered, but at the same time, just like horrified, because I didn't have work for that space. So 3 months to do the kind of work that I do is just, it's a lot to ask. So I had to quickly come up with a plan of drawings that I would make. And this was, so my plans when I'm thinking of what to draw look like this. And all of the information and the detail is typically in my head. And then I nonstop, I probably stayed up 3 nights at least a week doing this whole body of work. So I'm just going to go through this really quick. So this is the migration path. I was living in Tijuana, and I was also living in my studio in San Diego. I spent most of my time in Tijuana. That's why you see most of the information on the left side. I would go to Tijuana and map that park via public transportation. You know, that's the couch that was in my space in San Diego. And then that yoga mat was in my girlfriend at the time, her space in Tijuana. So I'm sort of collapsing the border, collapsing space and time, and creating a body of work that's representing all of my space in one space, right? So you have that, I don't know how many miles, maybe 30 miles, 40 miles between the two places. And then I did Gabby and I would Zoom all the time. So we're collapsing the distance and the border with virtual space, right? So that's really what this body of work is about, in addition to being a systems analysis of my current lifestyle at the time. And then I would then I would do an animation of my movements in those spaces. So this is an animation of me drawing. When I did the animation of myself working on the register at Trader Joe's, I was doing something a little bit actually more interesting to depict. And even though, you know, like the drawing was an interesting lifestyle, I'm going to go ahead and play this video. I didn't have time to put everything in Keynote, so part of this, the rest of this is going to be in a video. I'll just play that. Okay, so I saved every ticket that I used during my commute, and there's only a few tickets shown on here. I have a stack that's probably like 4 inches tall. So I mapped my space living in my studio. That was my studio in graduate school that I got to live in for 2.5 years for free. And then this is the migration path that's being depicted here. So this is UCSD, where I lived on campus. And then I would commute, take the bus to the trolley, and then the trolley down to Tijuana. And all of these images that you see are photographs that are, even these are photographs that are, or if I videoed something, I would screen grab it and then create an animation. So this is not video that you're looking at. This is all animation, meaning frame by frame by frame by frame. There's about 20,000 frames in my, and so this is the border. And then now this is a fast forward video. So this is my path from the border to my house in Tijuana. I lived in a sublet for 3 months the first year, and then I found a house, and then I lived in Tijuana in that house for 6 years. So this will take the, so this is my neighborhood, and then my little house right there. And then, so this is just, again, now that I'm living in a new space, I'm gonna do the same thing. I was invited to be in the California Center for the Arts. And so I did a drawing of my house for that show. And, you know, so I did the same thing. I measured and mapped my house and created a body of work talking about the system of living, you know, the living space in Tijuana, but of course, of migrating back and forth from Tijuana to San Diego. And when I'm analyzing a space, I analyze, again, every aspect of the space, whether it's a car or a house, whatever it is. I look in every crevice, you know, under everything, over everything. And, you know, I'm all of my work, this kind of work is a systems analysis of the conditions and the, you know, the elements that dictate my movements, script my movements, and then in turn inform my identity. So, you know, this is the space where I did some of those drawings that you see in the exhibition now. So obviously this drawing is very washed out. It's super detailed like the other drawings I showed you. It's gorgeous. It's 25 feet long by 80 inches wide. So it's massive. And it's the only way to photograph a drawing that big is to, with a really expensive camera, photograph like every 2 feet and then stitch it together. And I didn't do that. So the mess you see there, I lived in this house until 2013. And then in February, one night when I was teaching, I got robbed. And the 3 guys broke into my house and took everything. Ironically, I had one room that was where I kept all my drawings in tubes, and I had one drawing out on a table. They didn't touch my drawings, thank goodness, but they took anything else that was worth anything. I got my motorcycle. So I lived in Tijuana for 4 years or 5 years before I got the motorcycle. And I got the motorcycle because I was offered 2 additional teaching jobs than what I was normally teaching, and I couldn't accept them unless I had transportation. So I bought a motorcycle so I can cross the border in 10 minutes. So this is everything in my house at the time. Like I had, you know, when you have a house, you tend to accumulate a bunch of stuff. So, so in analyzing my space, of course, I drew everything that was in the space itself, everything that's in the space. And then from this show, I was invited to do a show at the Secut in Tijuana. So I took one item out of my space, that Currier and Ive plates that belonged to my grandmother. And if I have any family members here, I'm sure you remember eating on the Currier and Ive plates at grandma's. So I took the Currier and Ive plate. The Currier and Ive company and the prints of Currier and Ive represent sort of a manifest destiny of you know, like American culture. And so I appropriated the middle space and created these scenes, 26 different scenes from Tijuana that I went and visited and then did some research on. So that's my neighbor Kuka, who owned a fish cart, and I did that drawing. This drawing is 30 feet long with 26 place settings. And then serve the meal on top of it. So the best part about this drawing are the, you know, the drops. And ironically, people were so, look at them, they won't eat at the table. I wanted them to eat at the table and make a mess on the table so that we could have, so the drawing would convey collaboration. And the drawing was, you know, they loved the drawing so much that they wouldn't touch it, you know, so the collaboration did occur, but it didn't occur to the extent that I had wanted it to. Okay, so this, what you're seeing is, you know, one of the most stereotypical iconic scenes of Tijuana is our destinations is the Burro for tourists, right? And so people have been going to take photographs with the Burro for over 100 years. And so I call this my Burro clock. It took me 10 years to collect images so that I could get one Burro image per year from 1940 all the way until 2015. And then I went and got photographs with myself on every Burro, just to adopt that tourist role. And I was invited to do a show at Name Gallery about Tijuana souvenirs. And then I took those photographs and turned them into drawings. And so one of those drawings is in the current exhibition. And I think, also, so the next show that I was in, I took the idea of manifest destiny, or like the adopting the American identity, you know, because I've been living in Tijuana for 6 years and I'm the token gringa, and like the hostility is just kind of getting under my skin. I get it, but at the same time, it's hard to swallow when you're on the receiving end. And so I started adopting and like embracing my American, my American culture. So like thinking about like the space, being born in the space age, and like the manifest destiny kind of narrative that's in the passport. And then, you know, the American flag, my dad's burial flag. Okay, so this drawing that you're seeing, the sketches and the ideation, I was invited to do a show at Aqua Art in Miami. And so I just drew the southern border, you know, like, and the issues along the southern border. So I mapped out a trip, if you could legally take or illegally take a trip to get to Havana, and then I mapped out a trip north of the border. And then this is my mom, and one of the shows that I had in 2010, I invited my mom to collaborate with me in part of a performance on stage at the Grad for the San Diego International Art Fair. Okay. And her spotlight and my spotlight was supposed to be projected live, really large, but that didn't work out. So there's like, this is our collaboration with my mom. I tried to involve my mom in as many shows as I could, just to, you know, she's part of my narrative, and so I want her to be part of my history, or the part of my history that gets to leave a trace on the internet or in publications. And then these are just some show cards for all the other shows that I've been in. Okay, so so I'm also including some of the artist work that I've shown with. So what you see here, that's Vito Aconchi's piece, and Alexandra Hamilton in the back. And then there's my piece on the wall back there, my migration path. And I've been so fortunate to show with dozens and dozens of really super famous artists as part of group shows. And for me, it's just like, you know, when I have my work hanging in the same collection with a Frida Kahlo or a Diego Rivera or a Vito Conchi or Mark Dion, it's like a dream come true, really. And then in 2016, I had a retrospective. I was in an art space, an old Remax bank, and I took it upon myself to just like cover all the doors. There's doors behind this big drawing, with drywall, and paint the walls. And then I put up everything. Every single room in that bank had all of my work. I mean, typically a retrospective, you're invited from a serious museum to show all your work. And I just decided that it was time for me to show it all, be able to document it, and just kind of see everything out at once. Okay, so this is the tail end of that. Let me turn that off. Okay, and the next piece. So this is the retrospective, more detailed shots of the retrospective. So all of this work, you can see I love building my work in a body. It's a systems analysis. And this was the one time I had an opportunity to show how all of the sketches and the ideation go into building a body of work. You know, so like typically people will show this big drawing, but not all the little the other stuff that goes along with it. So it's clearly a systems analysis, and I'm just wanted to build this animation to convey how intricate the conceptual underpinnings of the work are. Okay, so I have several different bodies of work. So in this room is work that for 1 year, every once or twice a week, I would go to the beach and set up 3 buckets, homemade easels, and sit there and draw, you know, beach drawings like this. And people would come up and ask me what I'm doing, and I invite them to sit with me. And so you can see, here's some images of those, my little pop-up school. And people would come and just draw with me for hours. And, you know, I would just take documentation. And it was a wonderful way of cutting out, you know, after having all those shows and being involved with, you know, like the art, you know, the high art world, and having to do artist statements, and, you know, everything is really kind of laid out for you. I just wanted to have direct contact with, you know, people that aren't worried about what I'm doing now or what I'm doing next. And so that was really nice to just engage with a bunch of just people on the street, you know. And then also the animation that you're looking at is a body of work in and of itself. And so not only do I document the spaces that I occupy, but because my work has brought me so many opportunities, I'm documenting all of those opportunities and creating a body of work out of it. And so the animation itself starts to drive me towards doing the next series of drawings that might make sense to be included in the animation. So I did this drawing in 2000, a drawing of the bucket that I made, my homemade easel, and I sold that drawing for $4,000. So for me, like, if I can take the stuff that I use when I I live in my car. I've been living in my SUV for 7 years, and so I need things to be small and homemade, and something that's like portable and discardable, right? And so I'm just gonna, you know, my next body of work when I finish this house sitting job is to start drawing the items that I use out in my lifestyle. Okay, so that's the end of that show. Yusha, are you there? How much time?
Yes, I am.
How much time do we have?
Technically about 5 more minutes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna close it out then. I think that's enough. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ian. Let me come back. Also, if anybody has questions, please put them in the Q&A or in the chat. Either one works. Thank you, Iana. I absolutely, your work is so exciting. It's so invigorating, and it makes me want to analyze my own move, like especially now I'm moving a lot. But it's so reinvigorating, and it's so interesting to kind of understand, you know, the things that we do, the actions that we take, the way that spaces kind of make us act and think in certain ways. I think it's absolutely fascinating.
Well, the thing is, the whole premise was I was working 3 jobs, and like crap jobs, and getting paid crap money, and I was just trapped. And then there's no time to do anything to better yourself. And you know, I was making time by staying up 2 or 3 nights a week. I'm just exhausted. And you know, the fundamental question is why am I doing this? What is making me live this way, and can I change it? And so if you understand the scripts that are dictating your existence, if you are aware of them, can you change the script? And if you change the script, can you help self-determine your path instead of just being like caught up in this cycle of like, you know, like non-stop work, you know?
Well, but also, are you brave enough to take those steps? Because I think
that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you some of the questions that people are coming up with. So the first question we had come in is, do you use multiple hardnesses of graphite?
Yes, I do. I have a full range. Hold on a second. I will show you. I have a full range of graphite pencils, but I also, and so I pre-sharpen all of these, and they're like from 6H to 6B, so that I don't have to sharpen while I'm drawing, so I don't have to stop. But I also use a 0.3 mechanical pencil a lot, because I love the tiny mark that goes into the work.
Yeah, your system of organization and your sharpened pencils give me peace of mind. There's nothing as satisfying as a nice sharp pencil. I absolutely love it. So the next question, how do you change your perspective? And I think this is coming back to what you were saying about recognizing the systems and then stepping out of them.
If you can't, perception is key, really. I mean, the most profound moment in my entire life was the day on the register when I was just complaining internally about feeling humiliated for being working retail and being on the register. And it just hit me. What is the difference between practicing yoga, which is grueling, and working on the register? And there is no difference. It's perception. Perception is the obstacle. And yes, I did get into grad school. I did end up becoming a part-time professor. I am a recognized artist in San Diego, so it's easy for me to say that now, but I was saying it back then before I knew all this stuff was going to happen. If you can figure out how to have peace with what is in your plate, then you have the peace of mind to sit back and maybe change where those things are sitting on your plate and then approach it differently.
Next, does your art bring you joy?
It brings me joy and it brings me pain.
Yeah. I remember you were telling us how you were making the one with the tablecloth doily, and just you sitting there hunched over, just
grueling.
Oh my goodness. It's an endurance performance too.
Those drawings, typically I have a deadline. And if I'm going to do something that intricate, I need 6 months to do a drawing. And that's 12 to 16 hours a day. And if you skip a day, I'm talking 7 days a week. And if you skip a day because you just don't want to draw, that's a night that you have to stay up overnight in the last month. It's grueling. I mean, the drawings are gorgeous, but it's because then you can't do anything else but draw, and it becomes miserable. It's cathartic, but it's also miserable.
But at the same time, you clearly have it in you to that drive, that passion to make it work.
Yeah, there's grit, and I have drive, and then no one's going to do it for me. If I want to compete in the art world, which is a really difficult place to compete, if I want to get teaching jobs, if I want to be a professional in this career, I have to put in the time and the labor and the sweat and the grit, and it's not easy. It's easier working at it was easier working at Trader Joe's, but I wasn't happy. So
pursuit of happiness is not always
easy
and painless.
There's nothing to say about it.
Why were you so intent on getting into grad school when it sounds like you kept up such a dedicated art practice to produce work? Did you feel that an artist needs to legitimacy or even connections that an MFA provides?
You will hear lots of artists say you don't need that, and you don't, because not everyone's going to get into grad school. It took me 4 years to get accepted into UCSD. 3 years working nonstop in between my multiple jobs to build a portfolio. Finally, I had to move into my car and quit 2 of my jobs and go part-time on one of my jobs and not pay rent in order to be able to have the time to make work to get into grad school. But they take, at UCSD, for example, they take 12 people out of 300 or 400 every year. So, I mean, not everyone's going to get the cookie. And if you get the cookie, you can't waste a crumb, because it's just not easy to come by. So and I wanted to go to UCSD in particular because, and I didn't apply anywhere else, because they give you a studio for free for 3 years. And then not only do you not have to pay the first 2 years, but you get paid to teach for for all 3 years. So I don't know, my instincts just told me I need to get into school. And then once I was there, I had a solo show at the MCA within a year. The connections, that's where people go. That's, it's a place where it's an easy place for curators and directors and people in the higher art world to go and see what's happening. And so, yeah, it's a pretty important step. No, you don't have to have it to be successful. Lots of artists are successful without it, but many, many more are successful with it.
The next question starts off with a compliment or a statement. You are so inspirational. Thank you. My question is, do you use scales or rulers or use copier to make your drawings? What is your process?
I do use rulers. If I'm making like one of those large map drawings, what I'll do is make a set of blueprints on crappy paper. So like back in 2004, Kinko's the recycling bins were not locked. They're locked now. And you can go there and get all of the recycled architects. They would print stuff and then throw it what they, the rejects in the bin. And I would get stacks and stacks of really big crap, just print paper. And I would do all my preliminary drawings on those and tape them together. And then once the outline was laid out, I would transfer that, put graphite transfer paper underneath that, and then transfer that onto the nice paper, because the nice paper you can't erase. If you make a mistake, it's stuck. And so basically I would do the drawing 3 times. I would do the preliminary drawing, redraw it to transfer it, and then redraw it to darken in the transfer. And then I would do the detail on top of that. So it depends on what I'm drawing.
All right. When you were in the bank building in Encinitas a few years ago, you were working on a large piece about neuroprocessing. What ever happened to that piece?
It's it's here. I have so many projects. I want so badly to be able to just work on that project exclusively, but I can't, I can't. There's so many things going on, and I need to, with my classes. At the time when I was working on that, I only had 1 class, and so I had more time. Since then, I've gotten 2 classes, and I had to learn how to engage with a variety of students with needs that I had never been exposed to before. And so I found myself doing a lot of research on how to engage with, certain kinds of special behaviors. And there's not enough time to do everything. So that's there. It's on the back burner with, several other projects. And then I read and stay aware of it. And if I get a space, I had this space for 2 months, but I worked on a different set of projects. But if I had a space, it would be out all the time and I would be working on it all the time. Because I don't have a space, when I house it, I can only choose 1 project to pull out and really spend a lot of time on.
Also, I know that you're maybe not seeing the chat, but a lot of people are saying how amazing your talk was, and your family says hi as well. The next question, what paper do you like best?
Oh, yeah. I don't know, because every paper is different. And, I've worked on paper that was $250 for a sheet, and you cannot make a mistake at all, like nothing. You can't, there's nothing you can do. One type of paper, as soon as you draw on it, the fibers come up, and that was the expensive paper. And I bought 5 sheets for my solo show. And so when I started drawing and realized that it was like, oh my God, that finicky, I had no choice but to figure out what to deal with it. I would have to spray it, which would cause the fibers to loosen a little bit, and then shave it, and then draw on top of it. And then when the pencil would create fibers, after drawing, I'd have to shave it again before I sprayed it. So I don't like that paper.
I was going to say, that sounds terrible.
So every time I did a big drawing, when I was doing my big drawings, I would try a new paper just to kind of branch out and see what works. But I mean, you can't use, even if you're using typical drawing acid-free paper, if it's too thin, it's going to undulate. you really, if you want to do a drawing that is going to be flat when you're done with it, you need to, you need to keep, I'm not sure. There's a Linux 100 that I bought in LA that's really good. But then again, you just can't erase. You can erase the cheaper paper, but you can't erase the expensive thick paper that doesn't undulate. So yeah. Good question though. I'm still trying to figure that out.
What would you say is the end goal of your intricate analysis of things?
Death. I mean, I'm going to be doing this until there's no doing this anymore. I mean, I had, my grandfather had either dementia or Alzheimer's. I had an uncle that had Alzheimer's. And, so around 65, they didn't have their, they just weren't able to think like themselves anymore. And then my father died when he was 45. So I'm, I feel like, I spent my 40s worried about becoming 45. And now that I've made it to 51, to me, just working and not taking for granted my lucidity, my limbs. I have all my limbs. I'm able to function. I don't have any ailments that I know of. I just want to work as much as I am able to work. It's a gift. And, someday if I make it to old age and I can't do the kinds of things I'm doing now, I don't want to look back and wish I had. And so for me, it's just, like enjoy life, but at the same time, put in the work that I want to, the legacy that I want to leave behind when I'm not here anymore. I need to do it now because no one's going to do it for me.
What shift in your mind? Oh, sorry. What? Yes. Reading is sometimes so hard. What shift in your mind did the people on the street bring to you?
They love you. I'm assuming you mean when I was doing the drawings outside. I don't know what you mean. Specify.
So this question is from Lori. I don't know if you want to specify in the chat, Lori.
Okay, yeah, so I need to know if you mean living outside or when I was drawing outside. So I'll just answer both. Living outside, I put my blinders on. I try not to look at other people looking at me. I put my blinders on and I go about life as if it's just normal. And I don't look at other people or think about what other people. Now I do come across other people that are like less than me. And I don't carry cash because if I carry cash, I'll give it away. But when I was drawing outside, people love stumbling upon something completely unexpected and creative, and they love sitting there and just like, just people that would never, well, in my experience, these people didn't strike me as ever going to a museum or gallery, and they got to experience having this one-on-one quality 2, 3, 4 hour time with an artist for free, and just sit there and like have this experience that was unexpected, and it was beautiful.
Do you think you will continue an art career, or will you consider something different, a different career?
Man, I'm on this. I can't. I've been too many years into this to switch gears now. Like you got to have both feet in. You can't be an artist and not have both feet in. There's too many. There's millions of really good artists out there. And, again, there aren't cookies for everyone. There aren't opportunities for everyone. And I am blessed with quite a few opportunities under my belt, and it just would be a shame to throw that away. I think it's just important to me, no matter what happens, to see this through.
I think this will be the last question. We still have more questions, but we're running out of time. So how does your background in the military inform your vision and systematic approach to things?
Well, I had that approach before I joined the military. I was a computer science minor and studied systems analysis in undergrad. I worked at a channel Channel 8 TV and NBC affiliate, and I implemented two weather graphic computer systems. And so the systems analysis was already in my mind. I joined the military as a satellite operator maintainer because the systems analysis aspect of that job attracted me. In the military, though, is a different story.
Yeah, thank you so much for your amazing talk. Literally all the comments on the chat are about how inspired it was and how amazing, and everybody really enjoyed it. So thank you so much also for having this amazing exhibition up. Hopefully people will get an opportunity to see it, but we will create online ways to see it with a lot of images and videos. So please keep an eye out for those in the future so that you can see Iana's exhibition at Lux. And everybody have a wonderful evening. And thank you so much, Iana, for joining us.
Thank you so much, you guys, for showing up. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me. Thank you so much.